Welcome, everybody, to the second session of live improv storytelling at Strong Women, Strange Worlds, fabulous holiday extravaganza. I just can't wait to see what these fabulous authors are going to come up with for us. The whole event, which has been running all day, and some of it you'll be able to access later in recording, but it's better live, especially this kind of thing. It's brought to you by Strong Women, Strange Worlds. We're a group of authors who support other authors. Our mission is to elevate the voices of women and underrepresented authors of who are non-binary or otherwise ignored by the larger universe of science fiction, fantasy, and horror through events such as our bi-monthly virtual QuickReads, which you should be attending. Okay, that's an order. You can find out more about Strong Women, Strange Worlds by visiting the website. We'll add the link to the chat, but if you're watching the recording, it's https://strongwomenstrangeworlds as one word .weebly.com. I'm your host for this session. I'm Vanessa McLaren Ray, and you can find out more about me and all of the authors participating here in the handout, which was sent to you and which you've been getting reminders of in chat. So you can connect with all our books, and all the other authors have been doing all the fabulous stuff all day today. So you can download that directly from the website. It's a really nice PDF keepsake of this event. Kind of like getting a really good program when you've been to a show. If you notice a lot of shows, you don't get a program anymore. Okay, I want everyone to keep in mind, because this is a temptation, recording of the session by the audience is not allowed. So any recording of electronic communications, including Zoom meetings and webinars, if you didn't know this, if you do that without permission, it's illegal. So please don't. Today, we feature 4 daring authors who will attempt to collaboratively write a short story with you. It's a collaborative effort. On the spot, we'll either skip you if there's no contributions in chat, or we'll pull something out of chat. So chat, be ready. Or I'll pull something off if you're really stymied, I'll pull something off my cheat sheet of bizarre things that have nothing to do with the story you're unfolding. So that's the deal. Everyone ready? Okay. Well, before we actually start, I want to introduce our authors who are almost in the order of on my list of people to introduce. So we have Kelly Ayton, award-winning author, Michigan native. We heard a lot about Michigan this morning. Kelly brings heroines to life in a variety of blended sapphic fiction genres. She specializes in speculative fiction romance, focusing on extraordinary women who are as flawed as they are compelling. Elsie Allingham, well, actually it's Elsie W. Allingham, so you get your search strings right, is an award-winning Philadelphia area artist, author, and editor. Her short fiction has appeared in numerous anthologies and publications, and her debut horror novella, Muse, came out just this past spring in 2024. She's also the executive editor of Speculation Publications, a member of the Horror Writers Association, and the author of the historical fiction novel, Lady. So if you like historical fiction, you can get that too. Patricia A. Jackson's debut novel, Forging a Nightmare, is an urban fantasy featuring fallen angels, infernal nightmares, yes, there are horse-like creatures in this, and Black folks as the central cast. She has also written in the Star Wars universe. In her spare time, she rides horses and plays video games. Gabby Gilliam is a writer, a teacher, and a mom. She lives in the DC metro area with her husband and son. She's a founding member of the Old Scratch Short Form Collective. Her first chapbook, The Ocean Spit Me Out, was released in June 2024 from Old Scratch Press. Her novella duology, Drumming for the Dead, was released by Black Hair Press. Okay, are you ready? Let's get started. Here's my first evil prompt. Danae kicked the motor housing on the antique 2053 rocket sled. How much? Kelly? You are muted, my dear.
Sorry. Rookie mistake. This is the last thing Danae needed. She has to be at the starport and 20 secs. It's not a good word. Sorry. 20 minutes. 20 minutes to be at the starport in order to meet with her contact. And now her rocket sled is out and she has no way to get there.
Patricia, take it away.
This power converter has been corrupted. Half price or no go.
Gabby?
Without the sled, she has no idea how she's going to be able to make it to the starport to meet her contact. She gives it a good, strong kick, and to her surprise, it fires up.
Elsie?
She jumps on, and the salesperson goes, wait a second. We didn't discuss price. And she says, no worries. I'll come back. I need to get to the starport now. And she rides off.
Back to you. Oh, no, wait a minute. It's contributor number 5's turn. Audience, have you got something for us? What will you add? Anybody? Any takers?
Police chase. They added police chase.
Good spotting. Okay. Suddenly, a police siren sounded in the distance, and Kelly's heart began, or Kelly's, what was it? Danae's heart began to race. Kelly.
Danae knew the right thing to do would be to stop, to pull over. She didn't want any trouble with the law, but she didn't have a choice. If she didn't make it to see her contact in time at the starport, she was going to lose her opportunity to purchase tickets off-world, and that she couldn't do that. So she kicked it into high gear, hoping that the converter would hold out just long enough to get to the starport. She had a few tricks up her sleeve in order to elude the cops once she arrived, but until then, she hoped that they didn't cut her off before she got there.
Ooh, Patricia, take it.
Traffic was heavy that night on the way to the starport, but the rocket sled was small. So she was able to weave between all the other hover cars in order to evade the metal man that was now chasing her down the highway. But sputter, kick. The rocket sled started to slow as its power started to wane.
Uh-oh.
Danae tried to give it another kick. It had worked the first time. She was hoping she was going to find success again. Unfortunately, all she got was another sputter.
Ouch. Elsie.
The cops walked around and looked at her and said, "You are in some serious trouble, ma'am." And she said, "Do you know who I am?"
Okay, audience, what are you going to do with that? Quick, come on, time's wasting. The cop leaned back and crossed his arm and said, "Why don't you tell us all about it?" Kelly.
For your information, I am the command lead of all the precincts in this district, and you are stopping me from getting to the starport to meet with my contact. If you don't release me now, I'm going to call your superior and have you busted back down to garbage patrol in the lower levels of the, I forgot the word for jail building. So what's it going to be? And she pulled out her communicator to make the call. Bluffing, of course.
Patricia, come on, you got it.
As she was making this bluff, she was reaching behind into her pocket for her magnetic hydro spanner that she had gotten off the 150th anniversary of Doctor Who. She honed in on the one metallic clasp over the cop's chest and jammed the hydro spanner into it, releasing it.
Then what happened, Gabby?
the police officer went flying and landed in the middle of traffic. Luckily, since traffic was so slow, none of the cars ran him over. But Danae knew that she was going to be in even more trouble than she had been to begin with. She gave the rocket sled one more try. The engine didn't turn over, so she decided she was going to have to see how far she could make it on foot.
Oh, she's running now.
Fortunately, Danae had her Mercury boots on, and she was able to jump over several cars and vehicles that were stuck in the jam. However, it was not her day, and halfway through, with the end in sight, her boots failed too.
Oh no. Well, what happens when she looks up and sees that a meteor shower is suddenly occurring, and all around her, people are looking up at the meteor shower?
Danae knew that her
Kelly.
time was almost out. She read the reports months before. She knew what was coming. She knew the destruction of the planet was imminent, and she had to get off the planet. And the only way there was to get to that contact. Seeing another, gosh, I forgot what the name of the bike was called.
Rocket sled.
Rocket sled. Seeing another rocket sled rider nearby, she ran over to him, did a spinning kick, knocked him off, and apologized profusely, but knew he wouldn't feel it within the next 40 minutes. Jumped on and took off toward the starport. So she was cruel and callous, but she didn't care because she had something to do.
Your credit card has been denied. Access has now been taken. This rocket sled will shut down in approximately 15 seconds. You are now considered an unauthorized user, said the rocket sled as it slowly hovered back down to the ground.
You can't win for trying. Gabby, what will she do next?
Luckily, everyone around was distracted by the meteor shower. So while no one was looking, Danae ran and she found a motor scooter, the hover scooter that had been abandoned, its owner looking up at the meteor shower. And she hopped on and she kicked it into the highest gear she could and sped away.
Danae saw the starport ahead of her. She was going to make it. And then she heard the noise coming from the carriage pack on the motor scooter. The noise that sounded a lot like a baby.
Okay. Does anyone have an idea other than the space duck in chat? Okay, suddenly a majestic space duck appeared, and you guys got to bring it home now. I might give you one more round, but we need to be working towards a conclusion.
So now Danae had two problems. She skidded to a stop to avoid hitting the space duck. Space ducks were a notorious precursor for disaster on a planetary scale. They were the ones that were building the highway that was clearing a path through this sector, and she was desperate to get off planet to avoid the destruction. Nobody on the planet wanted to listen to her when she warned that this could happen. And now she has a baby to contend with. So she could turn around, she could take the baby back to their parents, and they would all die. Or she could continue on with the baby if she could get around the space duck. And then at least her and the baby would make it off world and survive. She may become a parent, but at least the baby is alive. So in order to get around the space duck, she remembered one key detail, one weakness of space ducks that were kind of a common secret. And that was...
Space ducks were indeed precursors of omens, and the duck spoke to her. The child that you have before you is beholden and cursed to save the world, my world. Give it to me now, or I shall destroy your planet as it revolves around its teeny tiny, worthless sun.
What a twist.
Danae knew that the planet was already doomed. So she held the screaming baby up, and the baby spit up on the space duck's face. And Danae knew that that was actually the one weakness of space ducks. And it crumpled to the ground, and she was able to race past it, baby in tow, headed to the starport.
Elsie, can you wrap this one?
Oh man. Okay. Checking behind her to make sure the space duck was still occupied, melting from baby spit up. She ran with the baby in her arms toward the ship in the very back, where Naya waited for her. Unfortunately, Naya was not there, but the rumbling of the ground indicated that there was no more time. Danae and the baby boarded the ship and took off just as the world began to explode.
Dun dun dun.
I can't wait to transcribe this one. We want to get this in the book. I like a bit of sci-fi in these things. Yeah, at the last minute. That's awesome stuff. Awesome. Well, good job, you guys. Lots of wonderful twists. They threw in this majestic space duck, and I'm like, okay, that's your suggestion. So that's what you get. Okay. My second prompt. Are you ready? Do you need a chance to breathe?
Are we switching the order?
Round, I'm going to switch up the order. So I'm going to switch up not just the who starts, but I'm going to switch the order a bit so that you don't have to feel like you're following the same person all the time. So I'm going to start with Gabby, if that's okay. I go, Gabby, Patricia, Kelly, Elsie. That doesn't work, because then you're still last. So I'm going to go Patricia, Gabby, Elsie, Kelly. How's that sound? Okay. Once we get in the rhythm, it'll be easy. So let's maybe switch to a more fantasy realm, perhaps something that might become horror or might not. Who knows? Depends on what you guys do with it. Janine checked out the clientele at Shady Side's newest speakeasy. Vampires and werewolves and demons. Oh my, she crooned. So Patricia, you're up.
This was not the place for a fallen angel. Vampires, werewolves, low clientele. She sashayed her way to the bar, hoping that she might be able to find her way back to her status in heaven.
The bartender was long in the tooth, yellow-eyed, bit furry. Janine walked up and ordered her favorite drink, whiskey sour, and tried to get the bartender to give her some information. She was looking for a vampire who was feasting on innocent women, and she was hoping that if she was able to track him down, it would be the redemption she needed.
Awesome. Elsie, what can you do with that?
Janine leaned forward to the bartender and said, "Where's Derek? I know that he's been hanging out here." The bartender gave her a side eye and said, "I have no idea who you're talking about. I have no idea who you are, and we don't really take kindly to your type around here."
Your type. Kelly.
What is that supposed to mean? She said back. He's like, type. White wings. Doesn't matter how much you try to hide them. I can see the feathers poking out from under your jacket. He's like, there's no Derek here. There's nobody here that you're looking for. She tried to maintain her calm, as a, fallen angel, she's still heavenly. But even fallen angels get angry, and she could feel the anger starting to build inside. And her eyes began to glow a bright blue light. You will tell me where Derek is. She put the most power of suggestion into her words that she possibly could. The bartender.
The bartender stares at her and starts to laugh. And that's when Janine breaks out her phone and points to the Purgatory app. I know he's here. The dating app has said so, and I slid to the left. He's located somewhere within the next 20 feet within me. Point him out to me now, or you'll suffer the consequences.
The bartender just laughed again. He said, I don't care what your app is telling me. You might as well just close those bright blue eyes because I'm not telling you anything.
What's she going to do now, Elsie?
Janine had a choice: violence or lesser violence. She pulled out her flaming sword and thrust it across the bar, poking the bartender in the chest, but not quite going through.
Not quite. Okay. Kelly, you're up, and then I need to throw to the audience. So give them something hard to work with.
The bartender, he quickly backed away. The smell of singed fur was heavy in the air. Nobody likes the smell of burnt fur, including Janine. She regretted her decision instantly. She was just trying to get laid. And what does a girl need to do to get laid? And sure, it was part of the, program. If she could get this vampire back to the side of light and win her way back into heaven, that's great. But, she could have fun doing it too. But this bartender was standing between her and Derek. And she was getting even madder. But clearly her powers of suggestion weren't working. Her flaming sword was maybe a little overkill, no pun intended. So she needed to come up with another option. She's like, listen, please, if you do this favor for me, I will grant you one favor in return, within reason. No death, destruction, or maiming. What's it going to be?
Okay, audience, what's it going to be? What's it going to be, audience? It's their turn. Sorry. A wish, yes. Okay, there's a genie out in the crowd who sparks up and says, "Hey, wishes are my thing."
A genie pulls out his butterfly knife and skillfully flourishes it back and forth, threatening Janine. I'll cut those wings off. Angels have nothing to do with wishes. That is my territory, the territory of my people, the jinn. So step off and leave the bar quietly before you leave without your wings, little one.
Ooh.
Janine said, simmer down. Go back to your lamp. I didn't promise a wish. I promised a favor. There's a difference. Calm down. And she turned back to the bartender and she's like, so, do you want a favor or not?
The bartender was intrigued and also slightly threatened. So he finally gave in. He said, look, if I give away every client that comes in here, I'm not going to be in business for very long. But what kind of favor are we talking about? And Janine said, well, have you ever vacationed in heaven? I know people.
Just like, I know people, I can get you a temporary pass. He's like, temporary pass? That's not a thing. You can't really just visit heaven, right? That seems not. She's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they don't tell you that's legit, or a lot of loopholes. And let's just say I can promise a temporary pass, but it will also only be temporary. Once your time is up, zoop, right back out you go. What she wasn't telling him was that temporary pass means, sure, he can get into heaven for a little bit, but he's going to be registered as a intruder, and he will go right straight down the oubliette hole to hell. But, whatever. He wasn't a good guy anyway, so she's just trying to get her, her shine back. She's going to do whatever she could to get to this Derek.
Look.
Okay, audience, want to throw a wrench in? Before Patricia's going to beat you to it if you don't.
Oh my goodness.
She's got something.
Yeah, she's got something. Okay. Suddenly, the shadow enters.
Suddenly, the shadow enters. Hell, oubliette. That's not how you make it into my domain. Lucifer Morningstar casts off his cloak of darkness. If you're going to get into hell, the only way to do so is in a Maserati or a Lamborghini. Didn't you know that?
Janine turned to him and was like, just let me do my thing here. Please. This is between me and him. You don't need to be involved here. And she turns back to the bartender and she says, don't listen to him. Hell is not even going to happen. Okay? Trust me. You're going to go. It's going to be great. And she makes sure not to mention the tiny, tiny detail that the temporary pass also involves dying, because it's the only way that you can get there. She's still hoping that he's going to take that bait and that Lucifer is going to keep his mouth shut. Although we all know that the devil's not very good at keeping out of other people's business. So as soon as the bartender went to speak, Lucifer turned to him and was like, she's lying, right? She's just trying to get what she wants. I can give you a much better deal. And my deal is...
The devil's deal. That's mean.
Lucifer offers the bartender whatever he wants while he's still on Earth, which the bartender obviously takes because it's a much better deal. Janine turns and says, gosh darn it, Lucifer. I told you we were over. I'm done. This is the whole reason why I'm stuck on Earth in the first place. Leave me alone and let me find Derek, who's much hotter than you anyway.
She tilts her head and then she says, why are you even here? He's like, babe, I knew you were here discussing details. And we all know the devil is in the details. And she's like, oh, you're such a jerk face. And he's like, just because you're not swearing now and doesn't mean you haven't swore with me. You might think the other guy is hotter, but I assure you there is no fire that compares to all of this. And she's like, step off. I already swiped on Derek. He's expecting me. She turns to the bartender. He is expecting me. I'm not out to get him. I swear, you're not giving him anything away. He's expecting me. And the bartender says,
Audience, what's the bartender going to say? Give me a line. Come on, you guys. You got this. Oh, this is awesome. The bartender says, well, I am Derek.
Okay. There's a moment of silence between the three of them. Janine sits back and says, I've been catfished. You don't look anything like your picture whatsoever. She turns back to her former lover, Lucifer, with a tear glistening in her eyes. He's broken my heart. What do you intend to do about that?
Lucifer gave her a slow smile. He said, babe, I thought you just said that we were through. That you didn't need me anymore. Here he is. Go collect your prize.
I don't know. I think that might be the end of the story. Janine steps off the bar stool, dejected, and starts walking toward the bar door. This is like the third time this has happened this week. She just wants to get laid before she has to go back to heaven. She's just about to leave when a handsome stranger by the door takes her arm and says, you know, I have a Maserati too.
And
I'm going to
That-
call that a claim. Are you cool
Oh,
with that, Kelly?
wait,
You got a topper. Kelly's got a topper. Yeah, we're going to have
the
three ends here.
stranger was hotter than even Lucifer, and she couldn't believe her luck that someone like this would approach her in the bar when she was having just the worst week ever. And she's like, "Oh, really? What's your name, stranger?" "My name's Jesus. It's a pleasure to meet you." Too much? Sorry. She found Jesus. What?
Oh, guys, that one was awesome. We only end with like 3 twists in a row. Um, so we
It was going to be Michael, but I switched it up to Jesus at the last second. Sorry.
I was hoping it
Yeah,
was Judas,
you know,
because I was
what
going to
would
have the
Jesus
license
drive,
plate
you
be
know?
Judas.
Oh, that would have been a good one too. Yeah.
Well, we have a little bit of time if you guys want to do like a quick round. That if you want to do a 5-minute, are you ready?
We could do speed round.
Okay. Speed game. Audience, be on your toes. Okay. Listen. The cat growled to Lydia. The hedgehogs have got it in for you. And I'm going to start with Gabby.
Why? So why are they after me this time? Last week, they were upset because I put in a new flower bed and they're claiming that it was right on top of their burrow. I swear, they don't live there. So what could they possibly be upset with about this time? I moved the garden. Why are they after me? And the cat, it was the cat, right? It says that they're after me.
Yes. Wow. Wow.
The cat points to the new bird bath that Lydia has put in her yard. And he's like, they're after you clearly because of.
Okay. Let's mix it up. Kelly.
They're after you because the bird bath was put right on top of their main sleeping den. And every time the birds go in to take a bath, they're splashing water everywhere and it's soaking through and they're just sleeping in mud and they're not happy with you. And Lydia is like, I cannot win with these. Maybe they need to go. This is my property. Maybe these, was it groundhogs?
Hedgehogs.
Hedgehogs? Same.
Hedgehog.
Maybe the hedgehogs need to go. She's like, why don't you do your job and get rid of them for me? And the cat's like, we know I don't go after common vermin.
Elsie. So Gabby, Kelly, Elsie, Patricia.
So Lydia says, all right, I'm going to talk to them myself because you are absolutely useless, cat. She walks over to the bird bath. She knocks at the bottom base and one of the hedgehogs sticks his head out. And she says, I'm getting a little tired with all these complaints. I open my garden to you. I open my yard to you. And all you do is lodge complaints with the cat HOA. But let me tell you something. I'm the president of the board. And if I keep hearing this, I will evict you.
How are they going to react, Patricia?
Lydia is thoroughly done with all of this. So she had been tired of all the complaints and had prepared for this moment by putting rat poisoning on some very shiny pennies and laid the pennies outside the bird bath after the door was shut in her face. And as she was 20 feet away, she shouted, "Sonic, come get him!" And the door opened.
Okay, audience, what are you going to do with that? Sonic, go get him. I need a bit more, Elizabeth. suddenly, what was her name again? Lydia looked down at her feet to the ground was shaking and a crack opened and chaos emeralds began to emerge from the earth.
Lydia was like, great. First, hedgehogs that do nothing but complain. And now the earth is literally vomiting up emeralds. Like, all I'm trying to do is have a beautiful garden here. And now, what am I going to do with all of these emeralds coming up out of the ground? Just then, Sonic finally came to collect his shiny pennies. He picked one up, licked it, and fell down at the foot of the bird bath. And the other hedgehogs were like, what has happened to, I was going to say king, but he can't be their king, right? What happened to Sonic? He's supposed to be untouchable. And Lydia realized that she should have not poisoned the pennies for Sonic. She should have had him give them to the other hedgehogs. So now she's got a dead hedgehog. She's got angry hedgehogs, and she's got a lawn full of chaos emeralds.
Okay, Kelly, what are you going to do with that?
So she's got to do a quick brainstorming session. She's got to get rid of the hedgehogs. She's got a ton of emeralds. And then she has an idea. I mean, emeralds have got to be worth money, right? What if she takes all these emeralds and uses them to hire a company to come in and eliminate all of these pests? So she doesn't bother consulting with the cat. The cat's no use. But the cat clearly senses what her idea is when she starts gathering the emeralds into a bucket. And he's like, I don't think that's a good idea. She's like, don't you worry about it. I've got this. So she gets on the phone. She's got her bucket of emeralds. She calls around. No companies will take emeralds. Who knew? Like, that's just the last thing she needs. So now she's got to find a way to trade these emeralds in for cash. Meanwhile, the hedgehogs are so angry. They've built a funeral pyre in her yard. They've completely torn up her flower bed, trying to pay, homage to Sonic. And she's losing all control. And she's going to be the worst house in the neighborhood instead of the nicest house. And she doesn't know where her life went wrong at this point.
So where did it go wrong, Elsie?
Well, so she panics and puts the hose on the hedgehog, thinking maybe she can just run them off. Unfortunately, that's too little too late, and his situation is already well out of hand. And then the chaos emeralds, of course, are not helping. And the hedgehogs revolt. They take their spines and they build little weapons. And they start chasing her through the neighborhood, through the garden, stabbing at her ankles.
Uh-oh. Patricia.
As she's running, a black limousine blocks her path, and out of it steps a very large hedgehog. Hello, human. I am Don Hedgioni, and I'm about to make you an offer you can't refuse. You've done a lot of damage to the family, my family, and it's time for you to go and feed the fishes.
I'm going to pull from chat here. He gestures with one hand, and the trunk of his limousine opens, and an army of garden gnomes emerges. Gabby. And we're going to bring it home on this one, guys.
Lydia realizes she has no choice but to run. At this point, the situation is more dire than she ever could have imagined when she moved the bird bath in her garden. So, chased by not only an army of angry hedgehogs wielding their spines like tiny spears, she's also fleeing from a militia of garden gnomes wielding rakes and shovels. And all Lydia can think of to do is to run.
Kelly, how far can she run?
So as she's running through the neighborhood, her flip-flops slapping on the pavement, all she can think is that this is the most insulting and indignant thing that could happen to her. As the president of the HOA, she made sure the very first thing on the banned list were garden gnomes. And how awful was it that she's now being chased from her own home and neighborhood by garden gnomes? And as she's running, she sees someone left a box of tools in their driveway. And next to the box of tools is a sledgehammer. And she skids to a stop, almost flipping out of her flip-flops, grabs the sledgehammer, spins around and said, "You want me? Come and get me," and starts swinging the sledgehammer back and forth. Garden gnomes exploding into shards of pottery, littering everywhere. Meanwhile, all of her neighbors are looking out the window, watching one woman screaming by herself, swinging around someone's sledgehammer, going absolutely nuts for what appears to be no reason at all. There's nobody there.
Twist
No.
on you, Elsie.
Oh.
Sorry, Elsie.
So in Lydia's mind, there is shattered garden gnomes and bloody hedgehogs in every direction. The streets are littered with spines and pottery. This is her special neighborhood that she has ruled with an iron fist for 10 years as the president of the HOA. And now it is absolutely destroyed. Don Hegione laughs from his limousine. "You fool. Everything you cared for is gone. You may as well give up now."
Aliens watch from orbit as their experiment is a dismal failure. Lydia, the 10th clone, has once again refused to live in harmony with the gnomes and the hedgehogs of the HOA. The head scientist turns to their leader and says, "It's another failure. I'm so afraid. I'm sorry." And the leader bows his head and says, "Nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure."
Awesome, everybody. We have like 2 minutes left. So I'm going to make a quick circuit and ask each person to just say one sentence about their latest book. And if you want, you can drop your links into the chat. But this is live improv, so you didn't get to talk about your books. So let's just do that real quick. I'm winging that. So just going to go logical order. Kelly.
My most recent release this year is about a woman who is divorced and spiraling into depression, and she's just angry and bitter, middle-aged, body hurts. She goes on a self-help vacation, falls in love with the manager, and starts getting her life turned around, but there are multiple twists in this book. It is technically a paranormal romance. It does bring my two contemporary romance books into the paranormal world because it has connecting characters, and you just have to read it to find out.
What's it called, Kelly? Title
It is called Paradise Lost and Found, and you can find me on kaytonauthor.com. That's my website, or just look for Kay Ayton, like Bella Books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo.
All the places.
Yeah.
Awesome. Patricia.
Hi, you can find me on most social media as By Birthright. I have a nonfiction book coming out in the fall, and it's called Ban This: How One School District Fought Two Book Bans in One and How You Can Win Too. With given the current state of politics, there is a school ban coming soon to you. This is a book of arguments about what you can say back to the other side to shut them up and to get their grubby hands off of your books. And I would implore that all of you go to your school boards and make sure that they are dealing in transparency, or they will wield great power over you and your children. Even if you don't have children in the system, you are a stakeholder and they will respect you, or you will force them to do so at the polls.
Awesome.
Well said.
Can't wait. Gabby, what's your latest thing?
So my latest book is actually a chapbook of poetry. No Ocean Spit Me Out. It came out in June, so that's available from Barnes and Noble and Amazon. But before that, I had a novella duology, Drumming for the Dead, Trouble in Tomsk, and Chasing a Cure. That's about a parasite that is released into the water due to global warming, and it taints the water supply and it turns humans into mindless husks. And there are some kids who think that they have found what would cure it, but nobody wants to listen to them. And so they try to figure out a way that they can cure the parasite without becoming a husk themselves.
Awesome. Elsie.
So
Wrap the
my
pitching.
latest novel came out. My first novel came out in late September. It is a queer, feminist, historical, unconventional love story about War of Roses era woman whose husband is dying and she must pose as him and learn how to fight like a knight in order to save their barony. It's about found family. It's kind of enemies to lovers things, enemies to friends, and it is it's it's out now. Now there's no supernatural stuff in this one, but there are witches. So
Supernatural enough.
My stuff is on lcwallingham.com or under most social media under the same name.
Okay, great. And I'm Vanessa McLaren Ray. My most recent series features a bunch of patriarchal liars who are trying to overthrow a balanced government consisting of a matriarchy and an open thinking military and some other balancing forces. So we'll see how that one comes out. Thank you so much, everyone. We are out of time.